I think most people can agree that Fortnite Chapter 1 had consistently great seasons. I mean, hot take, I think even Season X was fantastic, and you can fight me on that. But I think there's some debate over what the best season of the chapter was. Some will tell you it's Season 5, with the game-changing map changes, summer vibes, and early game atmosphere as the hype is very much still ablaze. Some will say no, it was Season 2 or 3, the real OG seasons, Tilted, Shifty, Jetpacks, Double Pump. Some may even say Season 7. While certainly contentious on release, this winter season has gained quite a fan base over the years with the snowy vibes, 14 days of Fortnite event, Marshmallow concert, and The Blade. However, there's one specific season that I think a lot of people are split on. For many, it was pretty forgettable as the later Chapter 1 seasons dragged on and people moved on to other games like Minecraft. For others, it was the peak of the game, the best map, the best guns, the best events. This season is Season 8. Released on the last day of February 2019, Season 8 brought a massive tropical rainforest to the island, introduced a new cast of characters, and began the road to the ever-hyped World Cup. And I barely played it. I don't know, I played Season 7 for like 6 hours a day, every day, all the season. Perhaps I was just burned out. Perhaps I was just more interested in other games. But whatever the case, I didn't play much Season 8. I think I literally got to tier 22 on the Battle Pass, so yeah. However, I was recently lucky enough to try out the late Project Era, a private server hosting old Fortnite game files, which when I logged in, just so happened to be on Season 8. So, for the first time, 5 years later, I got to really try Fortnite Season 8. Let's find out what I thought. The first thing I noticed about Season 8 is, man, the Battle Pass was fantastic! Blackheart and Hybrid are the two tier 1 skins, and the only ones I own, incidentally. Hybrid was a pretty sick skin with some great styles, but Blackheart in particular I think was genuinely worthy of being the tier 100. But I'm not complaining because being at tier 1 means I own him. Sidewinder is a super underrated skin, and pretty fine, who I definitely wish I own. She kind of feels like a Calamity sequel, in a way. Peely, of course, is an absolute icon. He is one of the most recognizable characters in all of Fortnite, and it's truly heartbreaking that I don't own him. They can keep introducing new variants to the shop, but nothing will ever beat the original Nana himself. Master Key, I don't know, probably the weakest skin in the pass. His hair model was reused for Ninja though, which is pretty funny. Lux is not the most interesting tier 100. I remember her being quite underwhelming back in the day, and I think she'd be better suited swapping places with Blackheart. She's super clean and notable as the first female tier 100, but she really doesn't have any crazy edit styles or flair worthy of being tier 100 in my personal opinion. The rest of the pass is stuffed full of fantastic items, including some of the most iconic lobby tracks in this game's history, an adorable fox pet, super awesome loading screens, and a ton more. Despite that, this Battle Pass doesn't even hit the top 5 for me, and that's just because Chapter 1 had so many good Battle Passes that just being really solid isn't quite enough for the top spot. So, I started playing. I played one match, and then another, and then another, and then another, and then about 80 more. In the 3 short days that I had access to Project Era, I played over 14 hours of Fortnite. That's more than I've played through the entirety of Chapter 5 up to this point. I loved every second of it. Season 8, Jesus, it's incredible. The map is incredibly diverse and a blast to explore. The loot pool is really varied, the vehicles are stupidly fun to play around with, and I couldn't stop playing. Every kill, every chest, every ding feels so satisfying and rewarding in this version of Fortnite. There's something about the sound design during this era that makes everything feel amazing. Oh, and dude, don't even get me started on the UI. It's so good. The loot pool is really great at Season 8. It might be one of the best loot pools in all of Chapter 1. In all of Fortnite, in fact. At the start of the season, they vaulted some of the more fillery items like the crossbow and the chiller grenade, along with the planes and the unfortunate loss of the ATK and shopping cart. This was also the first time that grenades were vaulted in Battle Royale. Not a super crazy loss, but still pretty notable. However, this left us with a really solid base pool, a pump tack meta which can never go wrong, even if the tack is a bit of a socky napkin here, along with some real classics like the minigun, P90 and suppressed sniper. This was also when gliders were in the game, which was a super awesome part of Season 7 and 8's meta for me. Plus, throughout the season, more items got introduced. Some bangers like the treasure map, allowing you to find really great loot if you're willing to make the trek for it, the flint knock pistol, which is just a really fun knockback item with surprising firepower, the boom bow, which, well, it might be a little overpowered, but still one of my favourite legendary weapons, the high tier infantry rifle, which made the infantry rifle not terrible for the first time, and finally the shadow bomb, a super underrated form of mobility. There were also some weaker additions like the poison dart trap, which is basically useless. Oh, and also the scope revolver from season 7 is here for some ungodly reason. This season introduced two new vehicles, the baller and the pirate cannon. The pirate cannon is fine. The fact that you can fire yourself across the map is pretty fun, but I wouldn't find myself using it that much. Also, shout out to that absolutely abysmal challenge to eliminate someone with a pirate cannon. I mean, that's got to be up there with the greats of horrible Fortnite challenges like searching 7 chests in risky reels. Come on, man, what were they thinking? The baller, on the other hand, is one of the best vehicles they've ever made. Car sales will never understand the power of being baller pilled. Super fun to just bounce around in and swing from tree to tree. Plus, it's a Jurassic Park reference, which is really cool. Map changes! We had those. A lot of those. Let's start with the elephant in the room. The block moved and squished the motel. Oh man, I like the motel. Oh yeah, and there was a big old jungle, I guess. Following the slow roast of Wailing Woods in the final days of Season 7, the northeast corner of the island has been replaced by a huge tropical rainforest, complete with a big fat volcano, lava gushing out everywhere. There were some sad losses at the hands of this biome, which definitely soured my opinions towards it back in the day. I mean, my baby's wailing, lazy links, container yard, and what was once risky reels all taken out in one blow. Lonely Lodge survived somehow without a scratch. However, on revisiting this area, it's actually pretty good. The volcano is not just an amazing set piece, but also a really cool looting spot with great rotations across the map. Lazy Lagoon could never be the Lynx, but it's still a really cool POI. Pirate Ship is especially cool. Shout out to this chest that strands you for all eternity if you try to grab it. Sunny Steps, okay, I must confess, I hated Sunny Steps back in the day. It was actually my least favourite POI in all of Chapter 1's 10 seasons. However, after revisiting it all these years later and dropping in a few times, I actually grew to quite enjoy it. It's got a lot of loot, and it's not usually too much of a hot drop. The jungle has more smaller places to explore too, like the really unique hot springs area and some abandoned expedition outposts that have a surprising amount of loot. Tomato Temple is still here, although slightly nerfed from its Season 5 appearance, it's still pretty good. Plus there were all those volcano vents across the biome and even in other areas of the map, which would launch you into a skydive. Super cool feature, and I never really understood them being disabled a couple seasons later. Elsewhere, Loot Lake was dug up and a big shiny vault revealed. This variant of Loot Lake is super underrated in my opinion, with the extra factories and research outposts and dig sites adding so many more looting spots, while still keeping the essential parts of the lake we are all familiar with, like the island and Frank. Also, Tilted Towers got one of its most iconic buildings, No Sweat Insurance. Despite that, I actually discovered that it's really not a great looting spot. It might accommodate one solo, but if you're dropping in teams or at all contested, you're not leaving No Sweat with a full loadout. When it comes to LTMs, Season 8 didn't actually introduce that many, especially compared to the seasons immediately before and after it. However, what it did add was really solid. Obviously, the main one everyone remembers is the floor is lava, where the island is slowly drowned in rising lava and you have to keep building up to survive. Definitely one of the most popular LTMs, and for good reason. It's also the main one they've brought back, returning a few times in Chapter 2 and once in Chapter 5. Then there's Food Fight Deep Fried, a mix between Season 6's Food Fight LTM and the Floor is Lava. Also a really cool mode that I don't believe has ever returned. Plus, LTM mashups are already super rare. Air Royale is also super well remembered and returned once in Chapter 2. I think turning vehicles like planes into the main focus for an LTM is a really cool concept, and it was just a blast of a mode that I do hope returns one day. Endgame was a huge collab event between Marvel's Avengers Endgame and Fortnite, and it brought Thanos back to the game along with new Marvel mythic powers. I only played a few games of this, but I recall really enjoying it. Of course, we've also had our fair share of Marvel content over the years, but this was still when it was quite a rarity, and we even got the first ever Marvel series cosmetics, which were quite rare there for some time. And then there's Going Green. You probably don't remember this one? It was in-game for St. Patrick's Day only, and every weapon drop was in uncommon rarity, because green, I guess. But you could also find a buried treasure for better loot, so yeah. Now, an LTM idea I would have loved to have seen was a specific treasure hunting LTM. Imagine an LTM where the only loot you can find is the treasure map and you have to go hunting for the chests to get weapons and heals. Perhaps you even start without a pickaxe and get automatically granted the map, so you can't swap it for a closer one and you have to go and find it to fight. But yeah, overall the LTMs were really solid this season, with almost all of them being instant classics. The season culminated in a truly one-of-a-kind live event, the Unvaulting. For weeks, we were following clues and completing community objectives to send runes to Loot Lake. A government helicopter flew around the map and dig sites appeared before converging on the lake. The volcano darkened the sky as it seemed ready to blow. This one was going to be one to remember. And then, for many players, absolutely nothing happened. Yeah, this event is famous for not working for like 50% of players, but Epic Games gave out a glider, so it's all good. Except I didn't get to see the event and also didn't receive the glider, and yes, I'm still salty about that 5 years later. Still, for those who saw it, it was really cool. They got to go into the vault, returning to the in-between from Season 6's Butterfly event, where there were teases to Paradigm and the Zero Point. Then they could vote for an item they wanted to be unvaulted out of 6 options: Bouncers, the Drum Gun, the Grappler, Planes, the Tactical SMG, or the Infinity Blade. Bro, who was actually going to choose that? Anyway, the Drum Gun won, obviously. Transported back to the island, players could only watch as the volcano finally erupted, huge blobs of lava falling down and obliterating half of Retail Row, cracking Polar Peak, and leveling Tilted Towers. Except no sweat. Nice. Destroying their most iconic POI was a really bold move, but I think this was the right time to do it. With the end of the chapter forthcoming, this was a good opportunity to give Tilted some more map changes with the introduction of Neo Tilted in the Rift Zones. Plus, with Season 8, Tilted had officially been in the game for over 1 year, so the next season was a good time to let it go for a while. In fact, that day was the final time Tilted was seen in that form for nearly 3 years. Its next appearance being in Chapter 3 Season 1 in January 2022. The final days of the season had this really unique vibe where the skies were dark and several of the island's most iconic locations were in ruin. While I didn't get to re-experience this era, I did play through this back in 2019 and it was a really weird time with just such a unique atmosphere. But hey, the drum gun's back. I really loved replaying Season 8 through Era. But hey, don't just take it from me. I've brought on a special guest to discuss his feelings on this experience too, Nubus, who has been with Project Era since the beginning, and unlike me, played a fair amount of Season 8 back in the day. We also played a lot of Season 8 Era together, so take it away.
Hello Fortnite fans, Nubus here. You may or may not know me from my Luke the Notable inspired series where I return to Fortnite Chapter 1 and drop into it a bunch of times. Chapter 1 is really the only version of Fortnite I've played for the past 3 years. Modern Fortnite kinda lost me after mid-Chapter 2. And in terms of Chapter 1 season, Season 8 is one of my all-time favorites. Probably a close second, just beating out Season 6 for me, and behind the undisputed best season of all time, Season 7. Don't at me on that. Season 8 may have replaced my beloved Wailing Woods, a crime which I'll never forgive it for, but the jungle biome that replaced it is just so good, man. When Season 8 first came out, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but back then I didn't really appreciate the jungle that much. I came away from Chapter 1 originally with the mindset of it was alright, but Wailing Woods was leagues better. It's only with coming back to Season 8 5 whole years later that I really came to love the jungle edition. Wailing Woods is peak, don't get me wrong, but the jungle has Lazy Lagoon, the volcano, which is such an awesome set piece, and some of, if not the best atmosphere on the map. And that loot pool, oh the loot pool. Definitely one of the best ever. There's versatile options for pretty much every weapon class, some really fun and goofy items like the boom bow, and every item is just a blast to use. In 2019, I was alright at the game, but with 5 years of extra skill, I was able to completely take advantage of everything in that loot pool, and it feels great. For one of the rare times in Fortnite's history, the balancing felt just right. Nothing felt completely busted, the mobility was awesome, but not too much. Ballers may be the best vehicle ever, the jury's still out on that one. Even with Season 7, I found myself having some minor issues with the balancing, primarily with the pump being a bit too strong, but in Season 8, everything just feels fantastic. Season Season 8 was truly a one-of-a-kind season, and one of the best the game's ever seen. We're probably never gonna see anything like it ever again, and I'm very glad that I got to re-experience it and gain a new level of appreciation for it 5 years later before Epic said we're not allowed to have fun anymore. Thanks to Jakus for having me on. Watch my videos if they interest you. I put a lot of work into them. I'ma hand it back to Jakus. See ya.
Thank you, Nubus. Playing Fortnite Season 8 again was a really special experience for me. I'm really glad I got to give this season a second chance through error, even if just for a few days, because I've always regretted not playing Seasons 8 and 9 more back in the day. Season 8 has instantly become one of my top 3 Chapter 1 seasons, only really being beaten by Seasons 5 and 7. It was a fantastic, well-balanced season with boatloads of content, fantastic map changes, and a really great set of community events. I know this was around the time that some people started getting bored of Fortnite Chapter 1, which is a real shame because it resulted in this season being somewhat slept on. Hopefully, I brought it a little justice, because Lord Sweeney knows that Project Era did. Unfortunately, Era was drone striked by Epic Games' legal team, which means I won't be able to re-experience Season 9 through it, but it has opened my eyes a little. Fortnite changes so much that you really need to give each season a go at least once, because you'll never know if you'll be able to do it again. Season 8 was one of those seasons that had little to no representation in Season OG, with the jungle and several core items missing. 'Twas a shame, but at least we got the baller and the buried treasure for a bit. But I am eternally thankful for Project Era for allowing me to truly experience Season 8. So, I'll be the one to ask, where's the Fortnite Wilds private server? Come on man, the people need it! Fisted by the Devourer, but this is... Ah! What?